You mentioned World War II. You mentioned 1918. So in 1920,
World War I was 1918. World War II was like 1940.
Okay, World War I was 1914 to 1918. World War II was, I believe, 1939 to 1945. So in 1920, women got the right to vote. Now, and keep in mind, for the vast majority of human history, the vast majority of men didn't have the right to vote. It was a very small period of human history. I think about 100 years, maybe less than that, where more men, a gradual increase of more men having the right to vote than women. One of the primary reason why that is we were getting involved in these very almost global wars, a lot of wars. So men had forced military conscription. The way that men got the right to vote before women is because men were subject to military conscription while women were not, which in my view is a privilege. It's a female privilege to not be subject to be forced onto a battlefield and go get trench foot, go get chemical gassed, go get a shell through your fucking skull. I think it's a privilege that women got to stay home. Let me ask you a question. Let's say it's 1914, you're an 18-year-old. You're in Germany or France. Would you prefer to be an 18-year-old man or an 18-year-old woman in France or in Germany in 1914?
I think a man, actually.
You'd prefer to be a man?
I think that a lot of guys had, they felt honored to fight for their country. I think that pride is...
We liked it.
It's
propaganda. It's absolute propaganda.
Okay, were you an 18-year-old? Can you relate to that? Were you under the influence of propaganda? How do you know?
Do you know how brutal World War I was? World War I was the most, up until that point, and you could actually argue in some ways, World War I was more brutal than World War II.
Oh, no, I know.
The trench warfare, these men were on the front lines for months.
Germany, Britain, France, I know.
Constantly.
It was just...
They didn't sleep for months.
I know.
Roaring shells past you. Half of your friends all dead. You have trench foot. Your foot is literally black. You've been chemical gassed. You have chemical burns all over your body. Your ears are ringing because you've been bombarded with shells for months on end. You've lost your hearing. You haven't slept. Yeah, World War I was pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And this whole trope of military glory, that's what the propagandist wants. That's what the I don't know if patriots are the right word. That's what the propaganda wants to teach men. Yep. The reality is warfare is brutal in ways you cannot imagine. There is no glory in war. It will break men. And the horrors of war cannot be... the horrors of war just cannot be... what's the word I'm looking for?
It's ineffable. You can't say it in words. Words escape. If anybody wants to see what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, I'll send you some Telegram group.
They tell men that there's glory in war, but the reality is when you're freezing cold in the trenches in Amiens or in the Ardennes or the Argonne forest in France, and you've been fighting Germans for fucking 9 months, and you've got chemical burns from the chemical gas, you've got trench foot, you've seen the 3/4 of your military comrades killed in action. You've got ringing tinnitus. I'm sorry, but yes, that is...
I feel personally oppressed right now.
I was gonna say, you've
Can we please go?
Yeah.
All right.
We want to go home.
No, we're not gonna talk because we are so tired.
Okay,
We're
right.
You did a great job. Claps to the patriarchy.
Last thing on Bali Autonomy. I swear. Hold on, I promise. Wait. Last thing. Modern day. Last thing. Wait. Hold on. Last thing. Okay. Upon birth.
Oh
my God.
Whoa, hold on.
We're done.
It's literally going to take me 30 seconds. Upon birth. Literally 30 seconds. Trust me. When it comes to bodily autonomy, every single. Not, I shouldn't say every single. Most men in this country are circumcised upon birth. Let's talk about bodily autonomy. They don't have the choice. That should be something that they should be able to consent to. They don't have consent. They're infants. They have their genitals mutilated. I know you're laughing. I'm sure it's funny to you that all these boys in this country and various other countries have their genitals mutilated without their consent on birth. But let's have a conversation about bodily autonomy. Those are two ways that men don't have bodily autonomy. I'll leave it at that. I don't think you want to respond. I'm going to wrap up the show. All right, guys. Woo!